Ireland and Japan, folks, 41 points to 10 is pretty comfortable for the Irish lads. I have watched this one, apologies, very belatedly. It is nigh on 12 hours after the game because it was on in the wee hours here in NZ, and I took a gamble on the fact that it wasn't going to be some kind of epic Japanese upset that would be worth getting up after 1 o'clock in the morning for. And sure enough, 41-10, I was kind of proven right, but yeah, we'll go through some of the key events and the stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on the performance. I had Brian O'Driscoll and Rory Best on my commentary feed, and they seemed a little bit, just a touch negative on this game. Like they weren't particularly impressed by Ireland, and certainly there's some things to work on, but I think given the fact that, and maybe it's because the Box, with a very strong team, flogged Japan at Wembley a week ago. But I mean, the Box have been flogging lots of people recently, and that was a very strong-looking Box team too. Largely the Japanese-based players who are some of their real big guns, the likes of Colby and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, Ireland are just coming back from Chicago, and they made multiple changes. There's guys in some pretty low caps in this Irish team, so the fact that it was a little bit disjointed at times, I don't think is terrible. And some of the issues, like the line-out was pretty clunky, the attack was a bit clunky at times, but it seemed to kind of work itself out to a degree through the course of the match, and often it is the final 20 minutes or so that separates the sides. Just because it's close at halftime doesn't always mean it's going to be close at full-time, and that's just, one of those things that proved to be the case here. Ireland had a heap of pressure early, scrum and breakdown. They were putting lots of pressure on, but again, losing the line-out is certainly frustrating. It's an area that's taking longer to correct than I think most fans would like, because it is such a key platform in how your team plays. You get so many attacks and tries from like first phase set play. So to get the line-out right is becoming a bit of an issue. I mean, it finishes at what, 82% this week? Which is not really good enough. But yeah, we'll see how they go against the Aussies next week. Crowley did get a penalty from a scrum, which gave them the 3-point lead early, the Irish. But Japan was shifting the ball around pretty nicely. They weren't able to score from it. They still made mistakes of their own. The Irish defence managed to hold them out. But yeah, it was at least nice to see them playing a bit of enterprising rugby. Then Lawrence got a yellow card for a tip tackle on Henshaw, which certainly didn't help Japan's cause, and Ireland punished them not too long later. I mean, maybe it's because it took 20 minutes to get on the board that the commentators were a bit frustrated, but I mean, there was some sweet handling finally, and then Doris was able to find Crowley, so 10 points to 0. Not a bad scoreline for Ireland in the scheme of things, although, like the next try, the Timoney one, 10 minutes later, like that's not really like the most highlight-worthy try, because as I said, it was a bit clunky. There'd been line-out issues, there'd been obstruction from Ireland, there'd been a bit of loose ball, but I mean, the loose ball ended up with James Ryan popping it to Timoney, who just rampaged over for a try. So 17 points to 0, that's not a bad start. Not everyone gets a 17 points to 0 lead over Japan. Australia struggled to get past Japan, albeit with a much-changed team just a couple of weeks ago as well, on the back of some travel and a bunch of positional changes, but 17 points to 0. Osborne kicking out on the full, though, didn't help Ireland in terms of giving Japan a platform to attack, which they did take advantage of from that position and territory to Ireland's end advantage. And then off the touch, maul, and try time. So the one try they conceded was a maul. You don't really want to be conceding a maul try to the Japanese pack. Maybe the Aussies will highlight that one, but I don't think the Aussies have been a huge mauling team this year. The Brumbies have in Super Rugby. They've got a really high try scoring rate there. If they look at that, maybe that's an area to focus on for next week. But 17-7 is probably closer than the Irish coaching staff would have liked. And then it got worse because Stockdale got pinged for a head-on-head collision with Ishida out on the wing, which was I saw Jacob sent to the bin for 10 minutes, which the Japanese then duly slotted to make a 7-point lead at halftime. So it's 17-10 at halftime. That's a game, isn't it? It's a game, for sure. Despite the yellow card, though, Ireland did get back on attack, and it did end in a knock-on, but it was starting. I felt like maybe starting to hum, like Jack Crowley got absolutely hammered in a tackle which was not an ideal way for him to end that attacking phase, but they still managed to get this on the board. Porter got try time after an attacking line-out had finally managed to click. Japan had a penalty conceded, like trying to disrupt Ireland's line-out, and I don't blame them for wanting to contest the Irish line-out as hard as they could, because it was struggling. But I mean, jumping across, got themselves pinged, which set up the platform for Porter's try. Big carries over the advantage line, pleasing, 22-10. Stockdale got one TMO'd. I felt bad for Jacob because he was back on the field and he was trying to get involved in a bit of everything, but that one got TMO'd for offside in the build-up, unfortunately. But yeah, they were getting on the front foot. You kind of felt like at this point Japan are starting to hold on, and they could only hold on so long. 66 minutes, they got the maul going, Ireland. The backs got in there. That was 27-10. That's the Gus McCarthy one. Then the next attacking line out is not a maul, but the forward's still going through the phases. Then Paddy McCarthy gets his debut try, so congratulations to him. And then Tommy O'Brien, who had been hungry the entire game, he finishes off. It's turnover ball. Sam Prendergast on turnover ball, pops it behind his back. It's a sweet, sweet pass. And Tommy O'Brien runs over for the try. So 41-10, it ends up blowing out. But as I said, I did feel like if it's an arm wrestle, you can kind of feel the Irish guys really turning the screws the longer the game went on. So, as I said, I do think there's some positives here. Like, run meters is 575 to 373, so Ireland obviously have more, but the carry count is almost the same. Ireland only had like 9 more carries than Japan, but they got that much more return from it. Whereas we've seen a side like Australia, albeit over in Japan, not able to get that same return. So ahead of that match with Australia, you've both played the same opponent and got kind of a different result out of it. So I still think that's given all the changes, given the travel, I think that's a step in the right direction. Japan did bust more tackles, 26-18, but the clean breaks was 10-3. Japan dropped more ball, 21, or turnovers conceded as combination of drop ball and being turned over, so 21-15. Ireland did get some turnovers. Caelan Doris bagged a couple. But yeah, get the line out right. Get a few of those kind of running lines a bit more cohesive, a little bit less drop ball. I don't think Ireland are that far away. But as I said, we'll see how things go for next week against the Aussies. Doris, 19 tackles, 2 turnovers, 1. Great to see him in form. Clarkson made 15 tackles as well. Tommy O'Brien, 4 clean breaks, gets himself a try, 12 carries. Really, really hungry. I mean, for Japan, Makisi had 14 carries and Gunter had 13 tackles. But yeah, their big test is Wales next week, because they are genuinely in a fight in the world rankings to try and get themselves out of that 13 and below category. Japan, they want to be in the top 12 to be a second seed at the next World Cup, whereas Wales would like to remain in the top 12. It's like 12 against 13, so it could be a pretty fascinating one. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. Were you impressed by Ireland in this one? Were you a bit disappointed they didn't score more? Or is it kind of about what you expected? How do you think Japan's going to go up against Wales next week? Again, apologies, it's a bit delayed, but you guys take care, and I will talk to you guys again. So, yada.